Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show podcast, coming from right here in our quaint little studio. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. I'm joined in studio today by Ray Ora.
Happy Monday.
Jonathan Voitko.
Hello.
Paris Rose is here.
Hello.
And most importantly, you guys are here. Thanks so much for being here, making this little show part of your day. And here's how the show's going to go. We're going to start off by talking about a bunch of predetermined topics. Then in the second part of the show, we're going to take your live comments and questions. If you've got a comment or question you'd like us to address on the show, and we'll address it as long as we deem it appropriate to be addressed on the show, go ahead and use our tip link at www.streamelements.com/JohnCampea/tip. And here's the good news. If you're one of the many people who watches this show when it's not on live and you're watching it later in the day, good news. This tip link is open 24 hours a day. So if you've got a comment or question you'd like to ask, go ahead and fire it on in there and we'll get around to it on the very next episode. Well, it's a big weekend. We had Comic-Con, Doomsday, Robert Downey Jr., Deadpool and Wolverine, so much stuff going on. Had a really good time out there. Thank you to everybody who bumped into us at Comic-Con and came up and said hi. We had a wonderful time with that. And also, want to make sure you guys know that if you look in the community tab on our YouTube channel, want to remind you guys that the newsletter, the newest episode of the newest edition of the newsletter went out. Go on, check it out, give it a read. Let me know any suggestions you have for it to make it even better and more useful to you guys. It's going to be free. The newsletter is going to be free for the next week or so, and then it will become a paid subscription after that. But hopefully you guys will find it useful and entertaining, and you'll have some good ideas for us to make it even better. All right. With that all down, guys, let's get things started. We got a full show here today. So, Paris, what do we got up first?
Yeah, well, as we get closer and closer to X-Men finally making their appearance in the MCU, speculation from fans about the possibility of James McAvoy returning as Professor X has persisted. Well, in a recent interview, McAvoy appears to kill that hope and saying that Marvel has moved on. So, John, what do you think of McAvoy's comments, and do you think there's still a chance he might make it into the MCU?
I mean, I think there's always a chance for some cameo. And by the way, I also think there's a chance that James McAvoy could join the MCU as a completely different character. Oh, I got to fix my camera. Sorry, this is... there, that's better. That he could join as a completely different character sometime down the road. But I know what we're really talking about is, can James McAvoy return as Professor Charles Xavier in the MCU? And I think the answer is no. And it's not just because of what James McAvoy just said. As a matter of fact, let's take a look at specifically what he said. He said this: McAvoy added, "But I feel like they're talking about Marvel. I feel like they're moving on. They're doing new things, and they're going to do great things. They always do. But I would never say no to something if I've not seen a script, and I would never say yes to something if the script was really bad." So basically, he's giving the boilerplate answer. Well, I mean, like, never say never, but he said, look, Marvel's moved on. And I would have said no even if James McAvoy had not said this. If you're restarting your own thing, you got to make it your own thing, right? Deadpool is an obvious exception because Deadpool is a very non-typical kind of character and all that kind of stuff. But it's time for them to start their X-Men universe from scratch, which is part of the reason why I don't think we're going to see Hugh Jackman anymore. Yeah. I've been saying that before Deadpool and Wolverine. After seeing Deadpool and Wolverine, I still believe that. I don't think we're going to see Michael Fassbender as Magneto. I don't think we're going to see James McAvoy. I don't think we're going to see, what's the actor's name again who played Beast?
Oh, Fraser. Kelsey Grammer.
No. Sorry. The younger.
Yeah, the younger one.
The younger one.
The kid.
It was
Nicholas Hoult. Thank you. I don't think we're going to see Nicholas Hoult. Now, you could say, speaking of Kelsey Grammer, but John, at the end of the Marvels, we don't see Kelsey Grammer, but we hear Kelsey Grammer. I mean, yeah, there can be some elements that cross over. We saw that with the rebooted Lion King, right? They still got in James Earl Jones as the voice of Mufasa. You can do the odd thing here and there, but on whole, I think you got to reset the universe, which means I don't think Patrick Stewart will be Professor Xavier. I don't think James McAvoy. I don't think Ian McKellen is going to be back as Magneto. I don't think, all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I think it makes sense that he's saying he's not coming back. I think I understand him saying, you know, Marvel's moving on, and they should be. It's time to start a fresh copy of the X-Men and see where they can go from there. And sure, cherry pick the odd one or two things you can bring over. But ultimately, we'll see how it goes. Question is for you guys. What do you think about that? Like, have you been one of the people thinking, understandably so, that maybe there's a possibility McAvoy could resume the role of Charles Xavier now that X-Men are in the MCU? Are you surprised to hear him saying look, Marvel's moving on? Do you think it's the right move? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? Paris, what do we got up next?
All right, well, a few weeks ago, if you guys remember, John made a case why he believes San Diego Comic-Con should be moved out of San Diego into another location like Las Vegas. Apparently, some of the executive leaders at the San Diego Convention Center saw John's editorial and invited him to meet with the Convention Center leadership this past weekend at Comic-Con to discuss his concerns. So, John, what did you guys talk about, and were they able to change your mind about moving Comic-Con?
Yeah. So I made a mention of this on the community tab on the YouTube channel that you guys remember I made a case, and I've been saying for years, I've been saying for many years, that I think the main Comic-Con needs to move out of San Diego. Not because I don't love San Diego. I love San Diego. Ann and I go to San Diego several times a year just so we can hang out there for a weekend, stuff like that. I love the town. But if you guys remember, I basically laid out a laundry list of why they need to move, why San Diego just isn't big enough to hold Comic-Con. We had according to news reports, 120,000 people went to Comic-Con this past weekend. 120,000 people. And it created some very predictable things. My wife didn't want to go back to the Comic-Con floor because it was too crowded. So here's the first thing. Las Vegas, their convention center is triple the size. Literally triple the size of San Diego's Comic-Con, right? Number two, and probably the main reason for everybody, San Diego just does not have enough hotels. People are either needing to stay a half hour or more away from the convention center, or they have to enter a lottery to see if they're lucky enough to get a hotel room, or they literally have to get hotel rooms where they pay 10 times the normal price. If you wanted to stay in one of the hotels like right surrounding the convention center, there are people spending $2,000 a night. Not everybody was. I'm saying there were some people spending like $2,000 a night. I heard from a lot of people who were spending like $900, $1,000 a night on their hotels. It just makes it impractical to go. Anyway, the infrastructure of the city is just not big enough to hold it. So that's been my argument. So like Paris said, a couple of the executive leadership at the San Diego Convention Center saw that editorial that I made. And when they heard I was going to be at Comic-Con, they invited me to come to the convention center, and they took me up to the boardroom to meet with the executive leadership of the San Diego Convention Center to try to address some of the concerns that I expressed. I'll kind of skip to the end. Paris, you asked me if they changed my mind that they should move Comic-Con out of San Diego. No, they didn't. I still believe they should. I just think for practical, tangible, pragmatic reasons, logistical, practical reasons, they need to move it out of San Diego. Now, that being said, they certainly did make some really good points with me about ways they're working on improving the Comic-Con experience for people in San Diego. Now, first of all, before I tell you the specific things we talked about, keep in mind, I was meeting with the leadership of the convention center, not the leadership of Comic-Con. Okay? Those are two different things. So, but most of my concerns revolve around the convention center and the city of San Diego, not Comic-Con itself. So one of the things that they mentioned out to me, and they pointed out to me that, number one, there are more hotels being built. As a matter of fact, a major hotel is supposed to finish construction by the time the next Comic-Con comes around, that they say is going to add over 1,000 new hotel rooms within reach of the convention center. I'm not going to pretend that's not significant. That is significant. It's not enough, but it's significant. And they also laid out some of the plans for me that the city was developing other hotels as well that they hope will really alleviate. I mean, and even they acknowledge it won't completely cure the situation. It won't make the hotel situation in San Diego great. They were being very real with me, but they said it will help and alleviate that a bit. And I thought they made a pretty good pitch on that. One of the other things, of course, that is my concern is talking about the size of the convention center. Well, they laid out for me where they're at in their plans, and they're actually pretty far along in actually something they've been talking about for years doing, actually expanding the convention center. And look, I'll be honest with you. I'm at the point where I'll believe it when I see it, but they did walk me through the stage by stage steps and where they're at now with the expansion of the convention center. And hopefully it looks like they're getting pretty close. Again, is the expansion going to make the San Diego Convention Center triple the size that it currently is, like Las Vegas is?
I don't think there's enough room.
No, it's definitely not. But it will help. It will help. It will alleviate some of that congestion, right? It'll help matters. One of the other issues that I brought up that for me, not for everybody, but for me is a major point of concern about the San Diego Comic-Con is this. The number one biggest main event of Comic-Con, not for every single person, but for most people, is the Hall H presentations. Whether it was the Alien Romulus presentation, but most importantly, the Marvel Hall H presentation. That's the thing everybody talked about. And here's the problem. If the news reports are correct, and I believe they are, that 120,000 people went to Comic-Con this weekend, Hall H holds 6,000 people. I know, I've moderated panels in Hall H before. Holds 6,000 people. That's 5% of the people who go to Comic-Con. That's a problem. When the number one main draw and the main highlight of the convention that weekend is something that literally only 5% of the people attending can even get into, that's a problem. That's a really big problem. That 95% of the people who go will not have the opportunity to go into Hall H and watch the big main event thing, right? So what I asked the people, the leaders of the San Diego Convention Center, I said, have you guys considered closed circuiting Hall H? And what I mean by that is take all the other panel rooms, Ballroom 20, Hall 6A, all these other, there's thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of other seats in other things. I said, have you guys considered at least tripling the amount of people who can see Hall H by allowing them to go into Ball 20, Hall 6, all that kind of stuff, and then show a broadcast of what's happening in Hall H just in those other rooms? Because we know that they don't like to broadcast or stream it to the world, but at least so people at the convention, at least more people at the convention, can watch it. Their response was actually very interesting. Their response to that was, we have the technology in the convention center to do that, but that's a Comic-Con decision. It's not a convention center capability. They laid it out for me that we do have the infrastructure in the convention center that if Comic-Con wants to add 15,000 more seats in all the other panel rooms and all the other ballrooms and all the other convention rooms, so people in the convention center can watch Hall H while it's going on in Hall H, we can do that. But that's not our decision. That decision is a Comic-Con decision, to which I would then want to then pose my next question to the folks in the leadership at Comic-Con. What the fuck are you doing? Why is this not being addressed? I'm sorry, guys, but I run into so many people at Comic-Con that I talk to. I say, hey, are you here for Hall H? You go, oh, well, we couldn't because the line was too long. We couldn't get in. We couldn't get the passes. We couldn't get the wristband, blah, blah, blah. They're like people who save up all year to fly into San Diego, take time off work, take time off school, save up their money all year, get a ridiculously expensive $5,000 a night hotel. Not $5,000 a night, but you know what I'm saying. Get a ridiculously expensive hotel, fly in there only to find out that I can't go and sit in this thing that I really wanted to do. Like, if you have an easy, and I'm sorry, I know my solution, which is to move the damn thing across the street, move Hall H, literally just across the street. It's a 2-minute walk to Petco Stadium, where you can sit 40,000 people and have Hall H out there. Maybe there are some logistical issues with that, but you know, it's an easy thing. You can triple the amount of people who can watch Hall H if you let the convention center close circuit it to all the other ballrooms.
I wonder if it's intentional, if they want it to be like a golden ticket kind of thing.
That's what I think it is.
Yeah,
and it's
like
always,
how exclusive.
It's been this
Yeah,
way
but it's
for
not
a few
fair to-
years, and it's kind of like, if me and John really wanted to get to Hall H, or anybody, you could really just go there super early. You're gonna kill a lot of time. I don't know why.
Yeah, but
it's not worth it. It's not worth
thing.
it for me.
That's
I don't
where the
agree.
solution
I think people
kills the rest of your convention, because you literally got to give up one of your entire days at Comic-Con to do nothing
and
but
people
stand
do.
in the line.
And people do. Some people find that's worth it.
But
for me, it's not.
There's
for me, it's not worth
someone
it at
that
all.
got up super early and thought they were getting up super early, and they were the cutoff.
Oh no.
Someone's got to be the cutoff.
That's the way. I mean,
So,
even with these
you know.
drawings for like let's say the exclusives inside,
I know.
you wake
but
up early. Sometimes you just don't get it. You try again next year.
But the math is set up to guarantee that no matter what you do, the guarantee is 95% of the people who go will not have the opportunity to go in. 95%. When it's 95% to 5%, that's not if you really want to get in, you can, because then the option, like I said, sure, you can do that, but the cost is you have to give up an entire day at the convention. It's one thing if Hall H was a free event to the public. Hey, if you want to go camp in line for 3 days. But it's another thing when people are literally spending thousands of dollars.
That's my point.
To fly into San Diego and come to
huge
Comic-Con
costs.
with the hope that they can get in Hall H. When there's an easy way, there is an easy way to literally triple the amount of people. It's still not everybody,
Yeah, it's
but
still a
there's an
chase.
easy
It's
option
still a
where
chase.
triple the amount of people can go. To just say, we want to make it super exclusive. That to me makes you Comic-Con douchebags.
Well, you know what? Let's not lose sight that what Comic-Con started as. It just happens to be these Marvel Cinematic presentations just gotten bigger just because of its popularity. I don't think they should really just move or like create, change the whole thing just for a small part that's become big. Only because
it's not the small part that's become big. Ask anybody. If we do a poll online right now and say, what was the number one thing at Comic-Con? They're going to say the Marvel Hall H panel.
Right.
I'm not. We're not saying we're not saying get rid of everything else. We're saying for that 1 hour, that Marvel Hall H, or like 2 or 3 times during the convention, book all the panel rooms so people who want to see Hall H, which is the number one thing people want to see, make it so they can see it if they want.
Still be,
because they paid thousands of dollars to come to your thing.
And it would still be a chase, but I agree with you. It still makes that, I agree with, I get that. But you can make it like 15 to 20% of the population versus 5. That's a huge thing that people don't, or I understand that too, the chase, but you need to make it clear on your website. Only 5% of people will make it to Hall H. When you buy these passes and you buy your airline tickets and you buy your hotels, the reality is you probably won't get into Hall H, but if you want to brave it, you can. Then fine. But
what's happening?
People show up there naively.
What's happening during the Marvel Hall H presentation? People are still inside the convention center having a good time. If people were really in uproar, I think we would have
here's the question.
We want in.
Here's my question. What's the drawback? What is the thing that hurts Comic-Con to during Hall H allowing more people to see it in other ballrooms? What's the drawback? What's the downside?
Because we'll have a year like maybe last year where Marvel skips it. You know what I mean?
Well, then you don't have to have closed circuit.
I just don't believe in modifying an event that's been like the way it is for years, just for, if they keep it exclusive, if we really wanted to go, we're going to have to camp out 3 days early. That's all.
But now you're telling people coming who spent thousands of dollars to come that if you want the highlight of our thing, you have to give up everything else at Comic-Con to only do that. And to me, that's nonsense when you have an easy way for more people. Again, I'm not saying shut down everything else in Comic-Con ever and only make Comic-Con about Hall H. What I'm saying is, while the big Hall H events are going on, and there were only like 2 this year, while those are going on, just make it so more people can see it. That's all. There's literally zero price tag on this. Well, Deadpool, there's a line in Deadpool that says, because it's in one of the trailers, it says, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. It's not costing them anything to say, hey, for that 1 hour, book out ballroom 20 and room 6 so more people can see the convention. We're not changing anything. We're just doing an easy thing to allow more people to see it who paid, again, thousands of fucking dollars to come to San Diego. Let them go to some panels in the day and come to Hall H.
Keep in mind, the people who spend thousands of dollars and not know for sure if they can go to all age, I think you need to not take that gamble every year. I mean, I'm just
But
saying.
again,
Like,
now we're- but
better
now-
luck next
but-
year.
But Ray, now you're blaming the victims.
No,
like
I'm
you're
not
saying it's
blaming it.
your
I'm not trying to make
problem.
this. I just feel if you want to go, you can really go, and you just have to sacrifice things, right? And that's the way it's
Right.
been,
And if
that's
there
the way
was
it's
no
always.
other option to make it better, I would agree. But there are easy options available to make it
And it would
better
still be a chase
for
because you're only like
people going.
15-20% of the population. Of
Well, I mean, they did
Comic-Con.
show like except the footage on YouTube, like right after it was,
Yeah.
it was there. I mean, we do get to do that, and this footage, a lot of it, we eventually get to see. It's just who sees
Eventually,
it
yes.
first. Who sees it first?
Again,
How
I'm
important
not
is that?
making the argument. I'm not making the argument that they should live stream Hall H to
Nah.
the world. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying for people who are attending Comic-Con, who bought passes, who entered the lotteries and bought hotel rooms and all that kind of stuff. I'm just saying for those people who are at Comic-Con and paid to be there, let more of them see it. I'm not saying stream it to the world. I'm not saying don't make it exclusive. I'm just saying let the people who actually came to Comic-Con see it. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, guys, the question is for you. What do you think about this? I think the people at the convention center made a good argument to me about how they are working to improve the situation. I still don't think it's enough, and I think they should still move out of San Diego, but I'm very encouraged to see what the people in San Diego, particularly at the convention center, are doing to trying to make the experience better for the people who go. Whatever you guys think, jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to our next topic here, shall we? Paris, what we got up next?
So last night, the second final episode of this season of House of the Dragon aired on HBO and Max. John, you actually got to see the episode early at Comic-Con. So what did you think of it overall?
I'll tell you what, I got so excited because I woke up in the morning and Ray and Ann, because the three of us went, and I heard them talking. They were talking like, oh my gosh, they're showing the new episode of House of the Dragon tonight. And this was what was that, Friday night? I think it was Friday night.
Yep.
Friday night they're showing is at 10:30 tonight. And we're like, all right, we're going to go to that because I love House of the Dragon. So we walked over there. The showrunner of House of the Dragon made a surprise appearance, came out, introduced the episode. And I'll tell you what, it was a movie-like experience. The crowds went wild. And by the way, I'm going to warn you now, I am going to talk a little spoilery about the episode, just so you know. I mean, it came out 6 o'clock last night, so I'm going to talk in some open spoilers. Jonathan, you got a spoiler badge there?
Already up.
All right, so like as long as this badge is here, once we brings this badge down, you can come back if you don't want to know anything that happened.
We don't need no stinking badges.
We don't need no badges. UHF. Then hold back. But I mean, opening shot. Like we know last week's episode ended with Rhaenyra getting on her dragon to go and find out who's flying sea smoke. Yeah. Who's flying that dragon. Opening shot. Literally, opening shot is just this wide shot of Rhaenyra and Adam and their two dragons on the beach looking at. That was how the black screen, boom, that shot. And the whole audience went crazy, right? And then, of course, the final shot of the episode, Rhaenyra standing there on the cliff with 3 giant dragons standing behind her. Again, it's like, oh, it was so good. People getting burned alive and eaten and all the drama. And Aegon, little chicken shit, or Aemon, I should say,
Aemon,
little
yeah.
chicken shit going, flee, Vhagar, flee. I might have preferred this new episode to the first Dance of the Dragons episode where Rhaenys died. It's close. It's really, really close because that episode was spectacular. And we still got one episode to go. And oh my God, I love this show. Again, you're seeing cracks in the armor too. Like even Rhaenyra, like she's just getting desperate. She's like literally throwing spaghetti against the wall, trying to see how she can come up with something. Finally, she has a conversation. Jacaerys, her son, her heir, saying, "Oh, by the way, Mom, you think I don't notice I have dark hair? You think I don't notice that? I mean, and so that little conversation. What's Rhaenyra's main girl's name? Is that Meleys? No.
I can never remember.
I think it starts with an M. I think it's Meleys or something like that. Her spouting more wisdom. It's like, you know, these lowborns are bending the knee and vowing their loyalty. Missaria is what it is. This lowborn's bending their knee and vowing to serve you. Your brothers are trying to kill you. What's more important? I mean, it's just the episode was so loaded with greatness and glory. That whole when Hugh is looking at the Bronze Fury in the face and just goes, fuck you, come on, right? I'm like, grrr. Like, I don't care if this guy gets eaten right now. That's a man.
I knew he was. I don't understand why they all stand so close to the dragons when they're trying to see if they're the next
Give them a
dragon
little
rider.
room to get out of there.
They know that fire goes far, so what? I mean, I'm like, you guys.
I think for the dragon to accept him, though, they have to like be able to.
No,
like,
that.
Oh, yeah, no,
was fine,
not
but
the guy at
people
front,
waiting.
but the
to
rest
see.
of them behind.
Oh yeah,
Why
yeah.
would you guys stand
yeah,
so
yeah,
close?
Like, sit
Knowing-
back.
That guy isn't the one who gets picked.
Yeah. I'm out.
Let's say dragon burn him. I'll
Yeah.
come up later and try my chance. I don't want to get burned because he's going to get burned.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
Collateral
Like, he got
burning.
like 10 of them in that trying to get that one guy, and I was like, well, they deserve it. Why were they so close to the fire?
Oh, I just thought that whole thing was great.
Yeah.
And even like when the small council meeting's going on, you hear the bells go, dragon, dragon. Aemon's like, what? And gets up and look out and you see. I think that was Silverwing flying over King's Landing. He gets pissed. He runs. Oh, I'm gonna go get Vagar, and he's chasing him to Dragonstone. Hey, listen. I'll give credit where it's due. Aemon figured it out. Because he pulled the same trick to get Rhaenys to come to Rook's Rest. Was that the name of the battle there?
I believe so.
Anyway, he laid the
Gotta look
same
on the
trap,
map.
and then he figured out, oh, wait a minute, I'm falling into the exact same trap that I laid last time. And he figured, okay, in his best Monty Python, run away,
Yeah.
run away. So, and also, damn it, this show does a
Janet?
really good job sometimes of taking the biggest idiot, awful characters and making us feel some empathy for them. Because when they're trying to get Aegon to walk and he's screaming in pain and you hear his crutch breaks, like, okay, this dude's a little dick, but oh man, I feel bad for him. Like this is pretty brutal. So anyway, I myself loved it. I thought the episode was great. Did you see it, Paris?
Yeah. What do you think about Daemon? I'm kind of getting over his story. I feel like it's just moving along a little bit too slow.
It is absolutely moving too slow.
Yeah.
The Daemon aspect.
Yeah.
Because I like what they're doing. Like he's having basically his Ebenezer Scrooge Ghosts of Christmas Past, Present, and Future moments, right?
episode.
And that's a cool idea for 1 or 2 episodes. They seem to be dragging it a little bit too much. Like, don't get me wrong. I like what happened in this episode that he had to make a choice to like behead that one guy and start moving things forward. I love the conversation that he has with Viserys, where Viserys is just like, I never wanted this crown. And look at what it's done, all the pain it's caused, all the misery it's caused. And then he turns to Daemon and says, do you still want it? Mm-hmm. And then in that moment, like Daemon's face, it's the first time you see kind of doubt
That's what I
about
picked up on.
maybe I don't. And so I really liked what happened in the episode, but I 1,000% agree that this one aspect of this season and this story they've drawn out too long and has felt like it's been really slow has been the Daemon part, which is really sucks because Daemon's one of my favorite characters in the show.
I just expect a big payoff.
That's
Yes.
what I'm
Wow,
hoping.
just dragging this so slow.
Yeah.
If there's not a huge payoff this final episode coming up, I will then say this is the worst Daemon filled season.
Yeah.
I think we are though. I
Yeah.
think you're right, but I think we are. I think we're gonna have a big Daemon moment in the finale.
Yeah, there's no way you
You
could
can call
write
it
the show
a
this
big
good.
D moment.
You could write
A
the
what
show.
moment?
Damon, right? A big D moment.
Yeah, a big D moment. He's gonna get his big D moment. Anyway,
Yeah, but the quality of the season, you can't write it this good and not expect them to have some big thing for Daemon at the end, especially because I agree with Paris. It's been we've been mud running this truck, and at some parts we can't get ourselves out that pothole.
Exactly.
We're just keep pressing the gas and we're not going anywhere.
He does eventually leave.
Yeah.
I can
He
tell
did.
you that much. But
I do like the boy prince. I can't think of his name though. Who really put Daemon in his place and made him behead his.
the new
yeah.
lord of the Riverlands and
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah, I like that kid. You know what he reminded
was
me
like-
of? a slightly lower budget version of from Game of Thrones, Lady Mormont.
Yeah.
The
Okay.
little girl Mormont.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So he kind of reminds me a little bit of a Walmart version of that. But I mean that I liked him. I thought he was good.
I have a question. Since I'm not a gamer, I haven't seen Game of Thrones.
Don't
Has
ask
this-
a question that we can't
No,
answer.
no.
though.
Has this aspect where the castle is? It's supposed to be a lot of mental
Harrenhal?
and a lot
Harrenhal?
of a lot
Very
of
strategic.
spells and witches. Has this aspect ever been in the Game of Thrones? Like the
Harrenhal's
what-
in.
yeah.
Harrenhal is. Let me take the spoiler down real quick because Harrenhal is in and featured in Game of Thrones. I think season 2 or 3. But you don't get into any. There's a lot of bad stuff that
feels
happens
like
to
supernatural
Harrenhal,
stuff.
but you don't get any
Yeah.
supernatural stuff there because they're kind of just there and transporting through. Yeah, it's just treated like, well, that was a castle that was destroyed and we don't.
That's
really
what I
use
do
it.
appreciate about the Daemon arc is it does introduce this aspect of the supernatural or mental or like just going crazy and things like that.
Because even Tywin Lannister takes up residence there, but
Yeah.
they don't ever show any kind of
Yeah.
supernatural stuff happen to him.
I swear to God, it's so tense when he's walking through those halls and he's trying to find where sounds are coming from.
Yeah.
I think around the corner something's about to happen. It never does.
That
but it
shot
gets
of him, like
Yeah.
when the camera's behind him
Yeah.
and he's walking in his
see the
silver
goat?
hair. Yeah.
Is it real or not? Is it the
Yo,
dream?
It's so
I like that
good.
aspect about that part of the Daemon angle.
All right, guys. Question is for you. Did you have a chance to watch the new episode of House of the Dragon? I thought it was awesome. I cannot wait for the finale. Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to our next topic here, shall we? Paris, what do we got up next?
Well, of course, on Saturday night, Marvel held its highly anticipated Comic-Con Hall H presentation. And did they get the internet buzzing as they not only officially announced the Russo brothers were returning to do Avengers 5 and 6, but that Robert Downey Jr. was returning to the MCU as Doctor Doom, starting in Avengers Doomsday and then later in Avengers Secret Wars. So, John, what do you think of the panel and the return of Robert Downey Jr.?
Okay, so first let me just talk about the panel for a second, because Ray and I did a live stream of the news coming out, and I was very underwhelmed by the panel at first, because Kevin Feige started off the panel saying, on today's panel, we're going to talk about 3 movies. I'm like, really? And you could figure that that's probably going to be Thunderbolts, it's going to be Captain America, and it's going to be Fantastic Four. But what you can do now, the Captain America part was actually pretty cool. They gave us some pretty cool information about Cap 4. I mean, including, especially surrounding Giancarlo Esposito and, Serpent Society and all that kind of stuff. So that was actually pretty solid. Then they went on to Thunderbolts, and Thunderbolts was really just, it was just standard PR stuff for Thunderbolts. All the cast saying, we love this, we can't wait to show it to you, and just a lot of that kind of stuff, right? Then they talked about Fantastic Four. They showed a little sizzle reel that isn't actually from the movie because they haven't started shooting the movie yet. They start shooting the movie tomorrow. And they surprised the audience by bringing out the cast because they told the audience that the cast wasn't there. And then they go, we're just kidding. Here's the cast. And then the cast came out. So that's pretty cool. And it was a 1-hour panel. It was supposed to end at 7. And Kevin Feige said, we're going to talk about 3 movies. So it was now like 7:01 and they wrapped up the Fantastic Four. And I remember doing the live stream saying, I think this whole panel, I mean, the Cap 4 stuff was pretty good, but I think this panel was a kind of a waste. I think this is a big missed opportunity. Like, what a big nothing burger. But then,
What happened?
turns out Kevin Feige, that rascally rabbit, was lying. He had duped us because there was more. And not now. I still think overall they could have done more at this panel, but they did end with a bang. Number 1, making it official. I was going to say the Harley Quinn brothers. I don't know why I was going to say that. I have no idea that was in my mind. But the Russo brothers come out, officially announced to be directing Avengers 5 and 6. That's big, obviously big. So they came out on stage, audience went wild, all that kind of stuff. And then they announced that, yes, we got Secret Wars as Avengers 6. But Avengers 5 is, and they bring up on screen Avengers Doomsday in green, right? And everybody goes crazy, which a lot of people were kind of expecting that since they were pivoting away from Kang the Conqueror, that they would be moving into Doctor Doom instead. And sure enough, that got confirmed. But then came the big moment. Then came the showstopper. Prime time, the main event. When they said we needed to get one of the world's greatest actors to play one of the world's greatest villains. And all these Dr. Dooms come out dressed up, including one Dr. Doom in lighter green with the mask on. And he stepped up, reached down, pulled off the mask. And as you can see right here, it's Robert Downey Jr. Pulls off the mask, which is, you know, it's funny because we literally talked about this last week about it being Robert Downey Jr. And here's the thing. I'm seeing some people like Tyrese in the live chat here saying, desperate. Can you find that, Jonathan? Bring that up. Tyrese in the live chat is saying desperate, but it's going to make money. All right. Here's the thing. I've heard a lot of people saying shit like that.
Yeah.
Funny. When they brought back Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield, I didn't hear anybody saying, oh, it's desperate. When they said Han Solo or Luke Skywalker was going to return to Star Wars, I mean, this is back before the movies came out, but still before that, saying come back, I didn't hear anybody go desperate. When we found out that Hugh Jackman was returning as Wolverine, I didn't hear anybody go desperate. Oh, but now, because they're bringing back Robert Downey Jr., who, by the way, for 4 years, I've been telling you all Robert Downey Jr. was going to be coming back. I told you for years he's coming back, and here he is. But for now, for some reason, oh, that's desperate. When everybody else does it, it's not desperate. But when they do it, no, it's not desperate. It's genius. It's genius. Now, when we talked about the possibility of Robert Downey Jr. playing Dr. Doom last week, I said two things. Number one, it's not what I would do, right? Like if Kevin Feige called me and said, should we do this? I would say go more traditional. That's what I would do. Yeah. But the second thing I said was that if they did do this, my God, there are some really creative narrative possibilities that you could do with this. I mean, you could do something really, really fast. Again, not what I would do personally, but what I would do is irrelevant. If they did do this, I mean, the whole notion of, you know, the guy who was Earth's greatest defender now being the Earth's greatest threat. There's some very cool, interesting, original things you could do with this that I think would be very, very compelling emotionally for the audience. I think it would be great. Now, I understand the hardcore comic geeks will want the traditional story. I get that. And like I said, if Kevin Feige gave me a vote, and thank God he doesn't give me a vote, but if Kevin Feige were to give me a vote, I would have voted for that. But this could be absolutely fascinating. Now, how's it going to be Dr. Doom? I think there's different ways that he could end up being Victor Von Doom. One is he's a Tony Stark variant that in his world, though, instead of being raised by his parents, maybe his parents die when he's younger, he gets adopted by this rich family in Latveria who rename him to the family name and call him Victor, and he becomes Victor Von Doom. Or maybe in his universe, maybe even in the 616, maybe Tony Stark's great-grandparents were from Latveria and they moved to America. And like a lot of immigrant families did, when they came over, they changed their name and they took on the name Stark or whatever. And at some point, this Tony Stark goes back to his family heritage, becomes Victor Von Doom. There's a million different possibilities. There's a million different possibilities about how Robert Downey Jr. is now Victor Von Doom.
I think it's going to be a big challenge for RDJ because people are going to see him as Iron Man. I think it's going to be really up to his acting, how he can switch everyone from thinking of him as the hero that's Iron Man into the villain that's Dr. Doom.
I have every confidence in the world he's going to, and to that point, it's going to be another like, my God, he did it again.
Yeah.
Now, by
because
the way,
go ahead.
I need to point this out quickly. A couple of people in the live chat, like Bright in the live chat, is saying they made a point that he is Victor, not a variant. Absolutely false. They did not say that. All they said was that his name is Victor Von Doom. They did not at any point in that panel say Victor Von Doom is not a variant of Tony Stark. I look, I'm not saying that's what it is going to be or isn't going to be, but I just want to correct this misperception out there that people are spreading, that they made a point to say he's not a variant. No, they 100% did not say that. It's just like the Maker is the Maker, but he's also Reed Richards.
Right.
Victor Von Doom his name is going to be Victor Von Doom, 100%. But there's 100 different creative ways that this Victor Von Doom is a Tony Stark variant. Either because, again, he gets adopted when he was young, maybe his family history is from Latveria the whole time, and he adopts it. Maybe just as Tony Stark, he decides, hey, I'm the smartest guy in the world, I should be ruling the world, takes over one of the nations of the world, and renames himself Victor Von. Look, all I'm saying is there's a million different ways that he both is a Tony Stark variant, and his name is Victor Von Doom.
Do they even say he's Latvian?
I think they will. I think they're going to keep that part of the story.
I'm
now,
almost
I don't
wondering
know. They
if-
never said they were, but they could.
I'm almost wondering if, and this is just pure speculation and me just like writing a script, but what if this is like a different universe and it's Sokovia, not Latveria?
But Sokovia never had like a
In our universe.
that kind of a government, at least not what they said. So
No, but I'm just saying in his universe.
Yeah, that it could like just like they call certain things and certain names, they change the names.
Yeah.
Maybe it's Sokovia instead
That's just
of Latveria.
me like, oh, I could write this in the script. It could be nothing like that.
I do think it's going to be Latveria, though.
Yeah.
I do. Now, there are also some people in the live chat bringing up, well, no, he's just going to be a completely different character, no connection, not a variant, not anything like that. He's just got the same face because Johnny Storm just happens to have the same face as Captain America. That's a totally different situation because they were two totally different studio sets of movies, right? Like, they did not have... It's not like the Fantastic Four were in the MCU and they had Chris Evans play Johnny Storm and then had him play Captain America. It was a totally different studio at the time. Now, again, not saying that's not what they're going to do.
Yeah.
They could. I'm just saying the argument of Chris Evans as Johnny Storm and Captain America doesn't apply here because when that was done, they were two totally different studios making two totally different sets of movies. Right. So, listen, again, not what I would have voted for, but I think the potential is there. And this is where we as movie fans, and I talked about this, I think on a little bit on our Deadpool open spoiler discussion yesterday. Whereas we as movie fans, and I mean all of us, because if you say you've never done this, you're lying. I know I've been guilty of this too, so I'm including myself in this, okay? We as movie fans get so precious sometimes about what we want to see happen that when they don't do what we wanted to see happen, we cross our arms and stomp our feet and say, well, then I'm not interested unless it's going to be what I want it to do. And like I said, I've been guilty of that. 100% I have. I think what we as movie fans need to be open to is to say, okay, I wanted them to do this and they're not doing it. Okay, I'm disappointed by that. But then be realistic about, but is what they are doing, could it have potential? And I think if we as movie fans, even those of us who would have voted for the traditional Doctor Doom and somebody else other than Robert Downey Jr. playing it, I think if we're open-minded and look at it and step back and go, okay, we would have voted for this, but we're not getting it. Okay, fair enough. This could be interesting because I think you are blind if you don't recognize that there's some really cool potential storytelling that could be done here. And remember this too. The Marvel Cinematic Universe has never directly followed the comic books.
Oh yeah, I mean, someone was saying not comic accurate. When has MCU been comic accurate?
You think the Age of Ultron movie was comic accurate to the Age of Ultron comic book storyline? Do you think Civil War was anywhere remotely accurate to what the comic book story of Civil War is? What I'm saying is that they often get their influence from the comics and they do follow certain beats. But the Marvel Cinematic Universe has always decided to veer in different directions when it felt it needed to for the sake of story. And 8 times out of 10, when they veered, it worked. All I'm saying is, I'm not saying this is going to work. I'm saying I think you're blind if you don't see that it has the potential to work. And most of the times when they pivot, it does work out well. So I think we just need to go into this with an open mind. It's fair to say, not what I would have done, fair to say that, but then just be pragmatic and say, but this could be good, so let's see how it works out. So I feel great about it. Even though it's not what I would have done, I feel great about this. And by the way, I haven't heard, when Robert Downey Jr. took that mask off, I haven't heard a pop like that in Hall H
explosive.
in years. I have not heard a pop like that in Hall H in years. So I think most average, I think 95% of the movie going audience are going to be excited by this. And for those of the rest of us who maybe aren't, let's just take a breath and see if we can get on board with it. And look, maybe it turns out bad. Maybe it turns out bad. Fair enough. Maybe it will. That's the part, and that's the point of taking risks. We always say we want our filmmakers to take risks. Don't play it safe. Take risks. All right. They're rolling the dice here. They're taking a big risk. And taking risks means there's a chance it's not going to work. It's not a risk if it's a guaranteed result. It's a risk. And maybe it won't work, but maybe it'll be great. So I like it. I like what they're going to do. I'm excited about it, even though it's not what I would have chosen to do. So question is for you guys. What did you think about this? Robert Downey Jr. is now Victor Von Doom in the Marvel Cinematic Universe's Avengers Doomsday. And by the way, at that panel, they didn't exclude the possibility that he could pop up before then. It's not a coincidence that they announced Robert Downey Jr. as Dr. Doom 3 days before they started shooting Fantastic Four. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm just saying. They announced him as Dr. Doom 4 days before starting to shoot Fantastic Four. I'm not saying that means he's going to appear in Fantastic Four. I'm just saying it's rather convenient. Yeah. It's convenient that they've announced him as Dr. Doom right before they start shooting Fantastic Four. So I don't know. Maybe he pops up in it. Maybe he doesn't. We'll see. All right, guys. Whatever you guys think about this whole thing, and I'm sure there's a lot of opinions, jump on down into the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this final topic here, shall we? Paris, what do we got up next?
Well, we all knew Deadpool and Wolverine was going to open big, and did it ever? The new Marvel film opened this weekend to record-breaking numbers, including being the biggest opening weekend for an R-rated film of all time and the 6th biggest opening of any movie in history. So, John, what do you think of Deadpool's opening weekend numbers?
My final prediction going in for the box office was 170 to 210. Ladies and gentlemen, it beat my expectations by $1 million.
$1 million.
As it came in at $211 million. $1 million outside of my range. I said it was going to be 170 to 210 was my final prediction, and it beat it. The original number said 205, but the Monday actuals came in and was actually $6 million more. $211 million. That makes Deadpool and Wolverine by miles the biggest opening ever for an R-rated film. Beat it by more than $70 million. The previous record was Deadpool 1 at 132, 133, something around there. This literally broke that record by 70 or 80 million dollars. Are you effing kidding me? That's insane that you beat an established record by that much. Crazy. But here's the other thing. By coming in at $211 million, not only is it by far now the biggest R-rated opening film in history, it is now the 6th biggest opening of any movie with any rating in history. Let's take a look at this. This is the chart for the biggest opening weekends of all time. Number 1, Avengers Endgame with 357. I'll be honest with you, I don't know that record will ever be broken. Number 2, Spider-Man No Way Home with 260. Number 3, Avengers Infinity War with 257. Number 4, Star Wars The Force Awakens at 247. Number 5, Star Wars Episode 8 The Last Jedi, 220. And now, this hasn't been updated, But now the number 6 movie is Deadpool and Wolverine with $211 million, beating out Jurassic World, The Avengers, Black Panther, and The Lion King. Well, and Age of Ultron, Doctor Strange, Incredibles 2, Black Panther Wakanda Forever, Captain America Civil War, on and on and on. Now, here's another interesting thing. In the whole debate about whether or not Deadpool and Wolverine can join the $1 billion club, I want to point this out. All of the top 10, actually, if you want to say the top 11, because we're sliding Deadpool and Wolverine in there, prior to Deadpool and Wolverine taking over the number 6 all-time opening spot, every single other film in the top 10 biggest opening weekend list has joined the $1 billion club. Every single one. That doesn't automatically mean Deadpool and Wolverine will join the $1 billion club, but it kind of means that it'll join the $1 billion club because every other one in the top 10 has. So there's that. But it's not just that. Deadline did this really neat breakdown of all the records, all the box office records that Deadpool and Wolverine just destroyed. First of all, as we already mentioned, the highest R-rated opening of all time, both worldwide and domestic, 444. This thing nearly made $500 million in its first weekend.
Flop.
Flop. Such a flop. So disappointing.
Yeah, it didn't make over 500 flop.
Like, I'm not saying it's going to. Actually, I'll say right now it won't. But it's conceivable that Deadpool and Wolverine could hit the $1 billion club by the end of its second weekend. I'm not saying it will. I'm not saying it will. I'm just saying it's conceivable. Also, biggest opening globally since Avatar: The Way of Water. Actually, now it's bigger than Avatar: A Way of Water. So that made 439. Deadpool and Wolverine is now at 444. The biggest domestic opening ever for Ryan Reynolds, beating out the Deadpool's 132. Biggest opening ever for Hugh Jackman, beating out his X-Men The Last Stand's 102. Biggest domestic opening ever for filmmaker Sean Levy. Highest July opening weekend of all time, beating out The Lion King that made $191 million in July. Marvel Cinematic Universe is now, thanks to Deadpool, the highest grossing franchise of all time. It has crossed the $30 billion mark with just 34 movies. That means Marvel films, you know how impossible it is to join the $1 billion club? Well, the Marvel films, they're almost averaging $1 billion a film. It is also the 34th consecutive MCU release to debut at number 1, the highest domestic opening weekend of 2024, and the highest opening weekend since Spider-Man No Way Home 3 years ago by Spider-Man No Way Home in 2021 that opened to $260 million. Number 6, highest domestic opening. Number 6, highest day opening at the domestic box office. Number 4, highest superhero movie opening of all time, only behind Avengers Endgame, Spider-Man No Way Home, and Avengers Infinity War. Highest opening weekend for a third installment, only behind Avengers Endgame. On and on and on and on. I want to remind everybody that when we first started talking about Deadpool and Wolverine, even before it was called Deadpool Wolverine, we were still just calling it Deadpool 3. So many people. I think most people thought this would be big, right? I think most people thought it would be big, to be fair. But almost so many people called me crazy and called other people crazy who said, oh, this is going to be a $1 billion film. And it was no way, no chance. You know, the other ones didn't do it, which is true. The other ones average about the Deadpool 1 and Deadpool 2 averaged about 750 million each, average. But my argument was always this. If you take Deadpool 2, averaging about 750 million each, I said, I completely believe that the higher celebrity status of Ryan Reynolds now, Hugh Jackman returning as Wolverine, especially after Logan, getting everybody psyched, Deadpool now being in the MCU, I said, if you don't think those factors can just equal an additional 250 million? I mean, remember, Deadpool and Deadpool 2 are like, they're averaging 750, so that's your starting point. I said, you really don't think Hugh Jackman coming back as Wolverine as our first X-Man in the MCU and Deadpool now coming into the MCU and all this, you don't think that'll equal another $250 million? Come on, guys. That'll easily make another $250 million. Now, granted, a lot of people said, but John, you don't understand. It's an R-rated film. And that'll really hurt it. And in their defense, only one other R-rated film ever in history has made $1 billion. That was The Joker. That's the only one that's ever done it. It's never happened otherwise. So people say, John, it's R-rated. And I said, there are people who are going to be bringing kids to this movie. Whether they should or shouldn't is up for debate. And guess what? The tracking for the exiting numbers out of Deadpool and Wolverine showed 11%. 11% of the audience that went to go see Deadpool and Wolverine were under 16. And I can attest to that because in our screenings, there were kids. There were kids.
Those
Listen,
little scamps.
The little scamps talking about pegging. And listen, in their defense, a lot of parents are okay as long as there's not going to be gratuitous sex and
Which it was
nudity.
not.
Yeah.
So
Which there's not. There's no gratuitous sex or nudity in it. So they're like, you know what? They're going to hear worse language walking in the mall. So whatever. And again, I'm
walking in the school.
walking into school. I'm not saying they should or shouldn't. It's not my place to say, but a lot of parents brought their kids. And so it's absolutely astonishing. It even broke my expectations because I thought the ceiling was 210 and it broke that. Not by much, but it broke it at $211 million. Guys, sixth biggest opening in Hollywood history. And it's an R-rated film, beating the previous R-rated record by like almost $80 million. This is insane. What they just accomplished here is absolutely nutty. And if we were playing by the Price is Right rules, where even if you go $1 over, you're out, Ray wins our bet. Because Ray took the over.
But I took a specific number.
What was
But still, I was under. I missed. I was under by 1 million.
Okay,
by only
you got
1
it, man.
million.
You got it.
So I mean, you took over and you were right.
What do you think? We were talking about by this weekend, it could be at $1 billion. Definitely by weekend 3. What do you think the odds are? Do you think it has a chance of getting the illustrious top 6 $2 billion films of all time?
I mean, let's read this one right here. Does anyone in this room could watch this movie again, see themselves watching this movie again?
I've already seen it 3 times.
I know you've already seen it.
I've only
Jonathan,
watched it.
after seeing it, is this something that you would go back to?
One more time at least. It's got one more in me.
Me too. If I were to watch it, I'd probably watch it one more time.
But
Yeah,
word of
because
a
mouth.
lot of stuff
all-
I missed the first.
What about all those people who are like, dude, you got to see it?
Yeah. Then we got.
So then
those.
word of mouth.
I'm just trying to gauge, like.
Yeah, Ann and I already have our tickets for our 4th screening now. I'll probably see it 5 or 6 times in total.
Wow.
I've seen it 3 times now, and for me, it gets better every time I watch it. Don't get me. I don't think it's the greatest Marvel film of all time,
But it's fun.
but it's super entertaining.
I think it's the best Deadpool movie.
And
I actually like Deadpool 1 better.
You do?
I
Yeah,
do.
I get a little bit above.
What I said is this. I was talking about it on the stream this week, and I said, here's the thing. I said, I need more time to really decide where I think it. But I said, right now, this is the way I would define it. I think Deadpool 3 is the funniest of the 3 Deadpool films. But overall, I still think Deadpool 1
It's a better movie.
by a little bit is the better overall movie. But I might change my mind on that. I need at least a couple of months to marinate on this movie.
I mean, I get
for
what you're
sure.
saying. Oh, just real quick, because it's like No Way Home. It's like that's my most fun Spider-Man movie ever. But Spider-Man 2 is still better than No Way Home. I'm talking about the Sam Raimi. You know what I mean? So I could see that argument.
And I gotta admit, when I've only seen it once, maybe within the first 15 minutes, it was starting to sink in for the difference from what I thought it might be to what I was seeing, right?
Yeah.
And then as soon as I started realizing what the movie actually is, I started appreciating it the rest of the time. I love this movie mainly for these 2 reasons. These 2 actors right here, they've given us these 2 characters in such a great way. Their rendition of it for who knows how long. Ryan Reynolds got this Deadpool
Decades,
movie
really,
in the
between the
theaters. We would never have had a Deadpool movie if he didn't push for that. Hugh Jackman just kept getting better and better as Wolverine, no matter how crappy the movie was. I just love the way this movie pays homage to the characters and the actors.
Well, they were both so
the characters
dedicated.
of Deadpool and Wolverine, who are fan favorites who've been fan favorites for a long time.
Well, and they were so dedicated. Like you were saying before the show, they were so dedicated to those roles.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
And again, now I don't think this movie joins the $2 billion club. I don't even think it gets to $1.5 billion.
I got 980. I'll say 981.
You don't think it'll join the $1 billion club?
I'm just saying that's my guess right now.
That's your guess right now.
Okay. Now, I did say it was going to hit $1 billion, but I want to be safe. I don't want to go over, so I'm going to go. I'm going to go 981.
All right. Like I said, every movie in the top 10 opening weekends has always, without exception, has gone on to join the $1 billion club. So I'm going to say this one. I mean, it could join the $1 billion club by the end of the second weekend. I think it's going to cap out about 1.2 billion. And I think it'll pass Joker as the number one all-time R-rated box office film.
What's the threat?
So
coming up?
1.2.
Only Romulus, right? It's only Romulus.
That won't do that.
Yeah,
I know,
Romulus
but it's the only threat to.
Yeah, the only big stiff competition it's got coming up is Alien Romulus, which I hope does really well.
So 1.2, you're putting it like maybe just above Iron Man 3 at 1.215.
Yeah.
I didn't realize.
I think 1.2, 1.3, somewhere in there will be its ceiling. Again, it'll make it the highest grossing R-rated film of all time. So anyway, guys.
Can I just mention one thing? Because I didn't get to say it before.
Sorry.
I'm just so glad that I wasn't spoiled that Wesley Snipes was in this.
That was such a great.
Lie. I thought we were done. I thought we had our thing out there. It was in the comments and someone just wrote it, so I was like,
okay,
yeah, you're right.
Hey, man,
Sorry, I should have responded in the comments.
Although our rule is after the weekend.
No, it's not. That's not our rule.
Oh, I thought you already had the spoiler show. Oh my God. Sorry, this person put it in the comments and I was like, yes, let's talk about it.
Everybody knows
All right,
now.
my bad.
So anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? The movie just shattered all kinds of box office records nobody thought an R-rated film could come close to doing, and yet it did. Whatever you guys think, jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. It's now time for us to get on to the most important part of our show, which is taking your comments and questions that you guys have sent in. But before we do, we're going to take a quick second and thank the sponsor of today's episode. We want to thank a sponsor of today's episode, Hungryroot. Guys, you know me, I like things that make my life easier, especially things that make it easier for me to eat healthy and eat well, and certainly more effectively than trying to order from food delivery services. Hungryroot is the easiest way to eat healthy. They send you fresh, high-quality groceries, simple, delicious recipes, and essential supplements. It's like having someone else do all the planning and shopping so you don't even have to think about it. Hungryroot gets to know your personal health goals, dietary restrictions, favorite foods, how much time you want to spend cooking, and more. Then they build you a personalized cart with all your grocery needs for the week, including easy 4-ingredient recipes to put those groceries to use. Each order is fully customizable so you can take their suggestions or choose anything you want. They've got fresh produce, high quality meat and seafood, healthy snacks, smoothies, sweets, ready to eat meals, kids snacks and meals, vitamins and supplements, and much more. Everything from Hungryroot follows a simple standard. It's got to taste good, be quick to make, and contain whole, trusted ingredients. Right now, Hungryroot is offering the John Campea Show listeners 40% off your first delivery and free veggies for life. Just go to hungryroot.com/Campea to get 40% off your first delivery and get your free veggies. That's hungryroot.com/Campea. Don't forget to use our link so that they know we sent you. And thank you to our friends at Hungryroot for sponsoring today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast. All right, with that now down, guys, let's get to the important stuff, your comments and questions. Paris, what do we got up first?
All right. Well, Robot Man says, what I loved about Hugh's Wolverine is that he played the character with skepticism in the beginning. What do they call you? Wheels? Which instantly made him so cool because he was coming from a place of pain and reality.
And that's really became a hallmark of how Hugh Jackman has played the character over the years and why we've all grown to love the character. Like Ray was saying earlier, even when it's in bad movies like X-Men Origins Wolverine, we just became so attached to him because of that pain and how he expresses it and all that kind of stuff. And I still remember the first time seeing the first X-Men movie and he looks at Charles and goes, what do they call you? Wheels? I still remember that. It was so great. All right, what's next?
All right. Deadpool's Unicorn Plush said, got IMAX tickets to D&W tonight and have never been this excited for a movie. Thank you for providing an outlet as someone as passionate and excited about this as me, as friends and family are not.
Believe me, it's my pleasure. And holy crap, we had a lot of questions last night. We did our Deadpool and Wolverine open spoiler discussion last night. 5 hours and like 11 minutes.
Jeez.
My voice was crushed by that point. But the thing is, people are so excited about the movie. People are so passionate about the movie. The conversation just kept going. And I mean, I turned off the super chats like an hour and a half into the stream. And we still ended up being like 5 hours and 11 minutes. It was crazy. All right, what's next?
The Blue Raja says, John, I was at the same Wrexham game. I wish I ran into you, but I ran into Rob McElhaney. He was so pissed about Mullen's injury, so I didn't say hi. Thanks for all you do. Been watching your shows for over a decade now. I'll be sad when you retire.
Guys, listen, if you're not watching Welcome to Wrexham, you don't have to be a soccer guy either. I'm not a soccer guy. Welcome to Wrexham is so wonderful. Every episode ending, it's a docu-series, will end with a big smile on your face. It's wonderful. And yes, I was at the game. Wrexham came and played Manchester United in San Diego in an exhibition game a few months ago. Ann and I went to it. And yeah, their main guy, we got the Super Paul Mullen. Paul Mullen like got his lung punctured or something like that in like the opening minutes of the game. It was like, oh my God. Anyway, so I'm glad you were there too. I had a great time at it. All right, what's next?
All right. Dante 2099 says, my top 5 superhero movies of all times is 1, Across the Spider-Verse, 2, Avengers 2012, 3, The Dark Knight, 4, Logan, 5, Spider-Man 2, but my wife and I rewatched Days of Future Past, and holy hell, I forgot how great of a film it is. May have to bump Spider out.
Yeah, listen, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse are so unbelievably freaking good. And I'm like you, like I rewatch Days of Future Past every once in a while. And every time I go back and watch it again, I'm like, I forgot. You ever have a dish at a restaurant where you've had it like 9 or 10 times, but every time you take the first bite of it, you're like, even though I know I love this, I forgot how much I love this. That's what watching Days of Future Past is like for me. Now, it's not in my top 5, but it's definitely in my top 10. Again, my top 3 in no particular order are Avengers, the first one, Avengers, The Dark Knight, and Logan. I think those are the 3 best, but Ben, you got some great ones in your list. All right, what's next?
Dante 2099 says, watching films and watching you all every day reignited my fire to come back to YouTube and share my opinions with the world. So after I watch a movie or show, I like to sit down and list pros and cons on what worked and what didn't work for me. After that, I like the film. I like to strip it of everything I like to see if the cons I listed get heightened or lowered. I saw D&W and went into it wanting to love it, but just liked it. I found that for me, the only things I liked was the cameos and 2 leads dynamic. For me, the story fell flat, and once again, Marvel fails on the villain. Powerful, but very forgettable. Would love to get your thoughts on my little viewing system.
Well, your system's good. I mean, it's a good system of going into it. I would say this. I have read a number of people who love Deadpool and Wolverine, like love it, but think the story's kind of weak. I'm in disagreement. I mean, if you saw my open spoiler discussion, you know I have some criticisms about the movie. But I thought the story was it's a good story. Like if you sit down and write down just the outline on a single page of what the story is, I think it's a fairly solid story. Now, as far as the villain goes, here's the thing. I think, what's her name? Emma Corrin? Mm-hmm. Is that who played the bad guy? Yeah. So Cassandra Nova? I think she did a great job playing the character. I think she's great. But is it a fairly forgettable character? Well, yes. But that is the Marvel formula. Marvel has made, with the rare exception of like a Killmonger, a Thanos, and a Loki, Marvel's main philosophy is, in our movies, the major emphasis is on our heroes. The vast majority of the screen time is going to be on our heroes. The most of the attention we want on our heroes. Most of the story is on our heroes. And the villains serve an important function, yes, but they are a function to prop up and promote our heroes. And that's worked for them. that's really worked for them incredibly well. We love the first Doctor Strange. Not a lot of people talk about Caecilius. I mean, Mads Mikkelsen played him. Mads Mikkelsen did a great job playing him, but Caecilius was there as a story function to push the hero's journey of Doctor Strange, right? I love the first Ant-Man movie. Love the first one. But we don't talk about Yellow Jacket.
Yeah.
Yellow Jacket was there as a function of the story to push our hero on his journey.
And then he became an Avenger. So it was good.
And then when he got to die an Avenger.
Yeah.
At least I die an
And plus,
Avenger.
it's kind of like the villain. I didn't expect them to put like a hardcore villain in this one because I kind of thought this was just going to be a one-off, right? With
Yeah,
this
I mean,
movie.
it's supposed to be a buddy cop kind of thing anyway.
The movie was really just these two getting together and doing a movie.
Well, and that is typical and traditional for Marvel. The movie is about, for them, the movie is about their heroes. That's a philosophical decision that they made. And again, there's been a couple of exceptions. Again, Thanos, Killmonger, but it is something that has worked for them because at the end of the day, the point is to make the best movie experience you can. It's not about give equal screen time to the villain, although some stories that works. It's about making the best experience they can. And Marvel's philosophy is we make our best experiences by putting the vast majority of our development time, of our screen time, of our emphasis on the heroes. So in that way, it's a very Marvel kind of movie. And quite frankly, while I like the Cassandra Nova character, I would not take 1 second of Wolverine or screen time away to spend more time on Cassandra Nova. I was perfect. I wanted this movie to be about Wolverine and Deadpool. And that's why, for me personally, it worked on that level. Despite my other issues that I had with the film, that's why, for me, it worked. All right, what's next?
Obert Wong Kanobert says, I go to AMC with my wife a lot, which got me thinking there should be an A-list friends and family plan. $45 a month for 4 tickets a week. Use any way you want. Bring 4 people to 1 movie, 2 people to 2 movies, etc. Good for couples and families. Thoughts?
I think the deal they already offer is the best deal in movies. I mean, listen, for like $24, $25 a month, I could see 12 movies a month. Especially I like going to the Dolby Prime and to the IMAX. When you're talking about spending over $20 normally for one of those tickets, that's the price of A-list as it is. So I'll be honest with you, while all that sounds great, if I'm AMC, I don't do that because the A-list offer they already have is already by far the best value in movie going. For the price of 1 movie ticket, practically, you can see 12 movies in a month, 3 movies a week. It's already a fabulous deal. So I would say get your other family members their own A-list because instead of saving because it's seeing 12 movies, I'm seeing 12 movies a month on the price of 1 movie ticket. That means I'm saving about $250 a month. Now, not everybody's going to go to 12 movies a month. Fair enough. But I mean, you could save for every one of those memberships you save, even if you go to half that, you're going to be saving, let's say you go to 1 movie a week. You're going to be saving like 60 or 70 bucks a month, right? I mean, so if I'm AMC, I would just say buy an AMC A-list for each of your family members because you're just exponentially creating your savings. So that's what I would say personally. All right, what's next?
All right. Garden Variety Vagabond says, John, Superman 1978 was especially great for those of us that saw it in the cinema as a kid. We believed a man could fly and had huge crushes on Lois Lane.
We were talking a little bit the other day about the 1978 Superman because I know it's an unpopular thing to say, but I don't think that movie is aged particularly well. Superman 2, I think, has for some reason, but you cannot, even if you agree with me, and I know most people don't, but even if you do agree with me, there's no denying the massive milestone and step forward it was in cinema when it came out. Because that, even though it may look a little corny to us today, at that time in 1978, there's a reason they put in their marketing, you'll believe a man can fly. It had never looked so real before. And it was such a massive step forward. So even though I think it may not have aged all that well, its place in history is always going to be secure for that reason alone. All right, what's next?
Anonymous says, so I went to see Deadpool and Wolverine at my AMC IMAX, and I lost count of the number of trailers they played before the movie, which obviously got on my nerves. But what angered me even further was the same Alien Romulus trailer being played twice.
Oh no,
That was probably just
WTF.
that was probably just a mistake.
that was clearly on accident. That like in their defense, that was clearly an accident. I've seen the Alien Romulus trailer play in front of all 3 screenings of Deadpool and Wolverine, but they never played it twice. So that was clearly a mistake. But again, I won't go into my whole rant again. Just to say, basic thing. People paid money to come and see your movie, not to sit and watch a half fucking hour of trailers. You play so many trailers, people even forget which trailers played, and you're leaving us mentally exhausted by the time the movie even starts. It should be the ArcLight Theaters model, 3 trailers, then the movie. All right, what's next?
Anonymously Anonymous says, here's an interesting question, John. What Pixar films to you feel like Disney animated films, and what Disney animated films feel like Pixar films? Frozen has always felt like it could be Pixar to me, while The Good Dinosaur feels more like Disney animated.
I'll be honest with you. Frozen to me feels more like it.
Yeah.
Visually, it looks like a Pixar film, but as a movie itself, I always felt it felt more like a Disney animated film to me. I think you're right about The Good Dinosaur. What's another one that Disney has done that feel? I'll tell you what, it's not Disney though. Like How to Train Your Dragon feels like a Pixar film to me, even though that's a totally different studio. But yeah, to me, Frozen's always felt like, another one. Moana felt like a Pixar film to me.
Yeah.
I say that one. Moana to me felt like a Pixar film.
And Wall-E, I was going to say Wall-E sort of reminds me of a Disney film.
That actually has it because it feels like Tomorrowland and Disneyland, right? So yeah, that's a good one. Like, so yeah, actually that's a really neat question. Those are the ones that I think I would get confused a little bit. All right, what's next?
Jay Nathan says, what if a variant Tony Stark wasn't kidnapped and he loses Pepper during the Avengers events?
Ooh.
He creates nanobots that work like magic and builds an Iron Man version of Dr. Doom's suit. Trying to put a suit of armor around the world justifies the means.
Okay, I'm glad you brought that up because that's something I forgot to mention earlier. One of the things the very first thing that Robert Downey Jr. said after he took off the mask at the panel, he said this phrase: new mask, same task. That's what he said. New mask. And then Disney put out on their social media a picture of Robert Downey Jr. with the saying, new mask, same task. They never said what the same task was. I think, and I'm just speculating here, pure fan speculation probably means nothing, but I'm speculating the same task is to build a suit of armor around the world. Maybe though for different reasons and for different motivations and for different purposes. But I think when he said new mask, same task, I think the task is building a suit of armor around the world. But again, for very different reasons. And again, I'm probably completely wrong about that. That's just a preliminary guess. All right, what's next?
Gator.
Gator
I had
says,
to say that.
Gator.
I don't watch the Marvel shows, so all the TBA stuff kind of lost me. Didn't know what they were talking about half the time. But it's the first MCU movie I've liked since No Way Home. The comedy was the strongest part. A pretty good, fun movie overall.
We were talking about this before the movie started, or before the show started, that one of the great things that they did in Deadpool and Wolverine that they failed to do in the Marvels was that they gave two, in Deadpool and Wolverine, I won't say what they were, 2 specific scenes where some exposition is given that if you never saw any season of Loki, you knew everything. So who was it that just asked the question, Gator?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Gator.
Here's the thing, Gator. You actually did know everything you needed to know. Those 2 scenes, and you probably know the scenes I'm talking about, those 2 scenes where they gave a quick little dump of exposition totally made it so if you've never seen a Loki show, you are completely up to date and know everything you need to know. Marvel's, which I actually thought was a good film. I didn't think it was great. I thought it was pretty mid-tier for Marvel, but I still overall thought it was pretty good. But they completely dropped the ball on that with that aspect. Like if you didn't see WandaVision or Ms. Marvel, there's so much of that movie you didn't get. And in Deadpool and Wolverine, they made sure they covered those bases, and that's where I think they worked there, whereas it didn't work in Marvel's. Anyway, all right, what's next?
Scott Summer says Deadpool and Wolverine felt like reading a comic book in itself. Out of all the crowd cheering moments and 10 out of 10 moments, there's a specific beat that happens in the third act that had me tearing up throughout that entire last act. Wolverine is the X-Man.
Yeah, they actually say that in the trailer too. Fuck it, you were the X-Man. There are 2 different moments in this film, which is primarily a comedy, fun, entertainment film. But there are 2 different moments in this film that I literally had to hold back tears. One is the montage that plays during the credits to Green Day's "I Hope You Had the Time of Your Life." So there's a montage that plays. I won't tell you what the montage is. During the credits that literally got me emotional, like really legitimately emotional watching. But there's also a thing that happens in the third act that you all know that Madonna's Like a Prayer is in the movie. There's a moment that happens in the third act where that song is playing, and at the same time I'm having, and it's getting harder. Every screening I go to, I've gone to 3 now. Every time I watch, it's getting harder for me to hold back tears. Wow. Like it's just it's emotional to me. Like it's beautiful to me, and yeah. So for a movie that's primarily meant to be a fun action, laugh kind of movie. Which it works totally on that level. It has a few moments that got me legitimately choked up. Anyway, all right, what's next?
Pat Deary says, over under 65%, we get a cameo of Chris Evans, Steve Rogers, and Captain 4. Love the show, been here since AMC days.
65 is a high number.
Yeah, I'd say under 65.
That's a high number. So if you had said 50, I would take the over. Like if you were to say coin toss, I'd take the over, but 65 is awfully high. So I'm going to take the under on 65. But I definitely do believe there's a solid chance that we at least get one scene of Old Man Rogers in it. And I still think Chris Evans is going to come back to the MCU just like Robert Downey Jr. is. All right, what's next?
Thomas BDL says, hi team, a couple of great Apple TV Plus news. 1, according to the WGA, Shrinking Season 2 will have 12 episodes instead of 10. 2, we can expect a first trailer and a release date for Silo Season 2 this weekend, as they have a panel at SDCC.
Loved Silo Season 1. I will admit, I love the show, but it's not, I haven't been looking at my watch going, when's Season 2 coming? I have been doing that for Shrinking. Guys, I know so many of you have not watched Shrinking. It's Harrison Ford at his best in years. Jason Segel is absolutely fantastic. The whole cast is great. It's so funny and heartwarming. You've got to watch Shrinking. It's so fun. It's so good. And I cannot wait for the second season. And I'm really looking forward to Season 2 as well. All right, what's next?
All right, Noah Monstercat says, big missed opportunity on SDCC for showing Deadpool 3 to only 400 people in Hall H. A lot more than 400 people would have loved to see that with that kind of crowd at SDCC. They need to relocate.
What was the story with that?
Was it only 400 people?
I don't know.
I don't know where they did it. But listen, the Deadpool screening was not an advertised thing. This is different than Hall H, where you're advertising to everybody. Everybody come to Comic-Con. Marvel's going to do a big Hall H presentation. But by the way, 95% of you can't get in. The Deadpool screening was a surprise, right? It was a pop not last second for them. They knew they were doing it, but it was a surprise. And I thought they did it in Hall H. And if they did it in Hall H, that means that 6,000 people were able to get in. Like, I think they knew they were doing like a Deadpool panel.
Someone said 6,500 people got in. So
well, Hall H doesn't hold 6,500 people, but whatever. So, but it holds like 6,000. So, but again, at least it was a surprise, right? The full screening of the movie was a surprise. So, for that, I don't think it was a missed opportunity. I think it's perfectly good the way they did it. All right, what's next?
Ethan Tremblay says, this movie is a popcorn triumph of the First Order. I don't know what that means. Rob said it before in a CinemaCon coverage, but Deadpool was great. All bets off. This definitely hits $1 billion. I'm back tomorrow just to stare at this movie again. Listen, I've already got my tickets for my 4th screening and I can't wait. You know what? I might go tonight.
I might just see if I can find an empty seat or two. I'll know Anne will want to go. Anne has already told me she wants Deadpool and Wolverine to break our personal record for the movie we have together seen the most. And I think that was the original Thor. Anne and I went to go see the original Thor in theaters 8 times.
In theaters.
Yeah. And so she told me yesterday she wants Deadpool and Wolverine to break that record. So maybe we'll just have to find a couple of seats tonight if we can and go see it tonight too. Yeah, man, it's just, again, is it the greatest comic book movie of all time? No. Is it a perfect film? No. But did it deliver what we all wanted a Deadpool movie to be? To me, absolutely yes. All right, what's next?
Edward Wells says, saw a 3:30 and 9 showing of D&W. Only had the Deadpool popcorn bucket left by the 9 showing. Got the Wolverine bucket and cup. Movie was fantastic.
Again, look, I was managed to get my cup, which is great. I love my cup. But I thought, since I was going to the very first screening, the 3 p.m. Thursday screening, very first screening, I thought, surely I'll be able to get one of the popcorn buckets since I'm going to be the first audience to see it. I was mistaken, and don't call me Shirley. So I was mistaken because I got in there and I was like, where's the popcorn buckets? And the guy at the counter told me, we opened the doors to the theater at 9:30 this morning. And when we got here to open the doors, there was already 250 people in line just for the popcorn bucket. So by the time my screening started, they were all out of the popcorn buckets. But hey, I at least got my cup. And I do love my, guys, you get it's like rubber and you can feel the texture on it like the costumes do. It's a really great cup. I love it. All right, what's next?
The Tick says, Sean Levy seems to have a knack for reviving older songs for a new generation. Fantasy and Free Guy, Like a Prayer and D&W, and let's not forget the juggernaut that was running up the hill in his episode of Stranger Things. How does he do it?
I'll be honest with you. I'm not even sure that it was Sean's decision to, I mean, he's the director of the film, but Ryan Reynolds was telling the story about how he personally got on a plane and flew to Madonna's house to go and personally ask her for her permission to put that song. He knew they wanted to use that song. So I don't know if that one was a Sean decision, but oh my God, the cultural impact of Stranger Things by putting in Running Up That Hill by, who sang that song again?
Kate Bush.
Kate Bush. Right. I mean, that became overnight. That song became like the #1 song on the Apple iTunes charts and all that kind of stuff.
That wasn't just his episode though. That was a main theme through that season.
Right. But again, it made this huge splash.
Yeah.
On it. And Anne went and she goes, oh my God, like there's like 5 million more downloads of Like a Prayer than when I checked yesterday.
Yeah.
So so clearly that's having a big impact too.
It's so funny with these songs because it's like, I mean, I was a little kid in the 80s, so, but I'm obviously aware of that stuff. My sister's like 11 years older, so she was a teenager listening to this stuff. So when all of a sudden it hits with like a new gen, like Gen Z or Gen A, and I'm like, you've never heard this song before? It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
All right, what's next?
iCritic says, hi, John. Me and my wife saw D&W in IMAX 3D at AMC Block 30 on Thursday at 4 p.m. show. When the previews ended, it was 4:54. Commercials and trailers are already out of hand, but almost an hour? Is there anything we can do about this? Wow.
Okay.
That
iCritic, I
seems
think
really
you've
weird.
got to be mistaken.
Yeah.
You've got to be mistaken. Like your showtime had to have been 4:30. I don't think you're lying, but I think you must be mistaken. There is no way they showed nearly an hour. No way they did. If they did, you should absolutely go to the manager and demand your money back. If they made you sit through an hour, but it had to have been a 4:30 thing because there's no way they do an hour. All right, what's next?
Renetta says, Deadpool and Wolverine was awesome. The cameos, holy shit. Great fake outs. Some expected, some not expected. My theater and I were, holy crap. I'm going again tonight. Yeah. I'm going again tonight, 2 times tomorrow, and maybe even Sunday. Loved.
I'll tell you what, I was talking about this before. I talked about it in the spoiler discussion, but they showed X-23 in the trailer, right? And it was like, oh, they ruined it. Guess what? I went to the movie. When Laura pops up on screen, X-23, it didn't have any less emotional impact on me because I saw the trailer. And guess what? My movie theater erupted in applause. Didn't seem to affect them either. It was perfectly good. It was perfectly fine. So I love that they had her in the trailer. But yeah, like I've been so lucky. The audiences I've seen the movie with have been so enthusiastic. And by the way, there's a cameo that nobody's talking about that happens in the very first act of the movie that I think is a woefully underrated cameo in the movie. And it's a significant one. It's kind of the cameo that starts Deadpool on his whole journey. And I think it's super important. Everybody's talking about all the cameos that happen later in the film. I think the one that happened at the beginning is probably one of the most important ones. Anyway. All right, what's next?
Swanson Burgundy says, other than a lightsaber, what's a sword from a movie or TV show you want to own? I'd have the Sword of Omens from Thundercats, or maybe the Bride's Hattori Hanzo from Kill Bill, or Inigo Montoya's.
Yeah.
There are so many good ones to choose from.
I already know mine.
Oh.
I like the blade sword.
The blade sword's good.
I want
not static.
I want Conan's from Conan the Barbarian.
Conan's is good. And if you do not help me, Crom, screw you.
Also Megazord.
The Eye of Thundera, the Thundercat sword is a pretty good one. I think the sword is called Frostmourne. The sword granted, this is from a video game, not from a movie or TV show, but I think the sword is called Frostmourne in World of Warcraft. That's a big one to me. And then maybe any of the swords in Highlander.
Oh man, yeah.
Yeah,
His katanas are so
man.
cool.
Especially Ramirez's sword is
Yeah, his is
pretty
nice.
freaking cool. All right, what's next?
Swanson Burgundy says, Tony Stark as Doctor Doom. It's an interesting idea, but I feel like that well was already visited with Age of Ultron. Admittedly, Ultron was a copy of Protector Tony without restraint, and your pitch is a little different, but still would follow a similar path.
I don't agree at all. He's really more a mutated version of Jarvis
Yeah.
than anything, with some of the
Well,
personality
that's
traits.
specifically what he was.
Of Dr. Banner, some of the personality traits of Tony Stark mixed in there too. But I mean, I'll be honest with you, I don't personally see the similarities at all. The idea of, again, who Captain America referred to, and I think Cap was wrong personally, because Cap is Earth's greatest defender, but Cap referred to Tony Stark as Earth's greatest defender. And the idea of Earth's greatest defender becoming Earth's greatest threat, I think is fascinating. And the idea of a Tony Stark from a different universe, and again, I hate multiverse, but if you're going to use it, at least use it well. Tony Stark from a different universe whose family history is different, who got raised different, who didn't have the experiences that are, and at some point in different ways used his genius for evil. Man, I think, again, not what I would do, but I think you're blind if you don't acknowledge there's some really serious, awesome potential there. All right, what's next?
Garden Variety Vagabond says, ouch. Who had Canada cheating at the Olympics on their bingo card?
They did not. Like one of the coaches, not even one of the coaches, like one of the assistants did something they weren't supposed to do. They fired the guy right away. That's being overplayed. And also he was getting video footage of a practice. It's no big deal. Anyway, what's next?
Mad Sinister McCall says, hey John, loving the videos. Keep up the good work. Got a couple questions. What Marvel character would you like to see in the MCU the most? Omega Red for me. Also, what is your least favorite Marvel character? My least favorite is Joe Fixit. He's a bum.
I won't answer the least favorite one because there's 1,000 D-list characters that you can pull off them, right? I mean, there's 1,000 D-list ones, so that's not important. The one that I'm really looking forward most is my all-time favorite comic book character. My number one all-time favorite comic book character from either Marvel or DC, hero or villain, is Magneto. He's my absolute favorite comic book character of all time, and I cannot wait to see him come into the MCU. This is the one I'm really excited about. All right, what's next?
Sorry, there we go.
Sam Fisher says, they haven't confirmed whether RDJ is Tony or actually Victor Von Doom. Could he really be playing Victor Von Doom, or is he truly a Tony who became Doctor Doom?
Again, they're not two mutually exclusive terms. He can be a variant of Tony Stark who is Victor Von Doom, who's this universe's name is Victor Von Doom. I don't know why so many people online are acting like it's this is a mutually exclusive thing. It's not. They can be one and the same. He can both be Victor Von Doom, who is a variant of Tony Stark. And by the way, I don't know that that's what they're going to do. They could do something completely different, but that's the way I kind of see them going with this. Otherwise, you get a different actor to play him. All right, what's next?
Sodak says Tony must be in F4, and that's how he breaks bad when their world dies. Maybe the name change has something to do with Victor Timely.
I mean, if their world dies.
Oh, no. Actually, okay, seriously, that's not a bad little stretch into the Loki series, pulling out Victor Timely. Cool. That's I don't think that at all. I don't think they're doing that at all. But it's really cool that you're kind of finding that little, maybe making a connection there, even though I don't think there is one. Look, I'm not saying that Robert Downey Jr. will be in Fantastic Four. I am simply saying it's awfully coincidental that they announced Robert Downey Jr.'s Doctor Doom, and 3 or 4 days later, they're starting production on Fantastic Four. It could very well be that this Doctor Doom comes from that universe. And maybe that universe goes whatever, and this Tony Stark comes over with them. Or this variant of Tony Stark known as Victor Von Doom there because he had a different upbringing or something, whatever. I mean, that's possibility. Again, I don't know that he's going to be in Fantastic Four. I'm just saying the circumstances are rather suspect, Your Honor. All right, what's next?
All right. Raymond Verada says, it is the biggest WTF moment of the weekend. It wasn't Deadpool and Wolverine, but the announcement of Robert Downey Jr. as Dr. Doom. Will it be a man in the Iron Mask situation with Tony Stark? Will his kids say, I hate you 3000?
I want to see his kids go, F you, Dad. That maybe, oh my God.
It's pretty good.
It's the possibilities are endless. And yes, that was, listen, they drop the needle. I still think they could have been a much better panel. I think, because look, Shang-Chi 2 is concrete. I'm not saying they should have, people say, well, John, they should announce things that they're not certain about yet. They're certain about Shang-Chi 2. They're certain about Doctor Strange 3. They're certain about a number of other things that they just decided not to cover. And I think they could have done a little bit more. But that being said, just ending that panel with number one, the Russo brothers needle drop, the Doomsday needle drop, and then they brought the house down with Robert Downey Jr. pulling off that mask and revealing himself as the new Doctor Doom and saying, new mask, same task. I think it's pretty cool. I think it's pretty cool the way they did it. All right, what's next?
Dante 2099 says, this is a three parts. What's up, gang? So following the news that came out of Comic-Con about RDJ as Doom, as much as it intrigues me, I'm not going to lie, I personally think Marvel is going to have a very hard time reconditioning us, the audience, that he's a different character. When his face has been synonymous with Iron Man, you don't think RDJ without thinking Iron Man. Not saying it can't and won't work, but I would have loved to have been in the room to hear the pitch Marvel gave RDJ for coming back as Doom. It's almost like Marvel telling Chris Evans, come back, but we want you to play Kang. Now, if the MCU was running on all cylinders, maybe I would feel different, but we will see. Can't wait to see how it unfolds. Love the show.
I'll tell you this. The reason that you just brought up about why it might be difficult is why it has all the potential in the world to be awesome. Because I think just exactly what you're saying, the audience is going to have a hard time because the face of Robert Downey Jr. is so synonymous with the hero. That's exactly what I think the other characters in the MCU are supposed to feel. I think that's what the audience is supposed to feel. I think that's exactly what you're just describing is exactly what Marvel's going for. That's what gives it narrative potential. Mm-hmm. That's what gives it emotional potential, is that this guy, this face you see is the one coming to save you, is the one coming to kill you. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what gives it a very interesting path to victory. Again, it might end up being terrible and might end up blowing up in their face. It could, but it's the thing that gives it its potential for the exact reasons you're a little bit concerned about it. I think it's a kind of a neat gamble to take. All right, what's next?
Chad from Pittsburgh says, John and crew, I hope all is well. I'm conflicted about the news of RDJ playing Doom. On one hand, he's a great actor and it could be a cool story. On the other hand, I can't help but feel like this is the MCU panicking a bit and using him as an emergency fix.
Why? I mean, why is Hugh Jackman coming back as Wolverine not seen that way? Why is Andrew and Toby coming back for Spider-Man not seen that way? It's a great story idea. That's why they're doing it. Listen, Robert Downey Jr. was going to come back to the MCU eventually, no matter what. I've been saying that for years, right? Just because it would be good for story. That's it. You know, like people are calling for, you know, people say, well, this director should direct this. Like, well, why isn't that just desperate and going back to thing? It's a great option. Robert Downey Jr. is in the tool belt. The Russo brothers are in the tool belt. Why not do it? I think there's something fundamentally flawed with looking at it. Oh, this is just them being desperate. When every other time, every other studio does something like this, them doing another Bad Boys and just bringing back Will Smith again, kind of desperate. Kind of desperate. No. Or like when Darth Vader pops up, everybody loves Darth Vader's appearance in Rogue One, right? Like that's the scene everybody talks about. But I don't hear anybody saying, well, that's just desperate.
I mean, people did say that, but I mean, they were wrong.
Yeah, I mean, but it's came out, right? So no, if they're doing this, it's because they felt this was the best way forward. That this was the story. Because remember, clearly they had to pivot away from Kang. Avengers 5 was going to be Kang Dynasty. And they, for a multiple of reasons, they had to pivot away from that. Number one, because they parted ways with Jonathan Majors. But number two, and maybe even more importantly, because the Kang storyline just wasn't working. It just wasn't working. So they had to pivot away from that. So they had to obviously spend a lot of time thinking about what's the way we go then. And, okay, let's do Doom. Okay, what's a really interesting, new, different way we could do Doom? That could be extremely emotionally powerful for the audience, cause a lot of conflict for the existing MCU, all that kind of stuff. Again, I need to emphasize this every single time. It's not what I personally would have voted for. But I'm open-minded enough to look at what they're doing and going, shit, there's a lot of potential there. This could be very, very, very good. So let's see how it turns out. All right, what's next?
Speaking of desperation.
All right, Not Henry Cavill says, hello, I'll keep this short. The MCU bringing back Robert Downey Jr. to play Dr. Doom sounds desperate. And I say that as someone who adored him as Tony Stark and someone whose favorite comic book villain is Doom.
Maybe that's why you're saying it's desperate.
Then you're projecting that onto it. Because listen, I saw the Hall H reaction to Robert Downey Jr. taking off that mask and everybody losing their freaking minds and being excited and loving it. I just don't get fandom sometimes. Like, on one hand, they'll like, they should listen to the fans. And the fans, clearly the fans wanted Robert Downey Jr. back. And then they do and say, oh, that's just desperate. But when there's something that they should listen to the fans, and then they don't do it, they go, oh, they've lost touch. They're out of touch. They don't understand what's going on. Like, you're fucked if you do and fucked if you don't. I see nothing desperate about it. I think they have done something. They managed to do something which is remarkable. They're doing something that to me is very, very interesting. And going in this direction. And again, I love how everybody's pronouncing, oh, this is this and this is this. You haven't seen the movie yet. I haven't seen the movie yet. I have a very, very strong suspicion that we're going to see this movie and go, well, of course it had to be Robert Downey Jr. It had to be. For this story to work, the way it's set up, it had to be Robert Downey Jr. So again, I just don't understand this mentality of why are we cherry picking Robert Downey Jr. coming back? Something I've said for 4 years is going to happen. But why are we cherry picking that and giving the label desperate to that when in the 15 other examples of it happening in the last bunch of years, we all call it great. And we all say it's visionary. But when they're doing with this, we're choosing to call this one desperate. I don't get it.
And all we hear is, come on, why can't we get Chris Evans back as Steve Rogers? Come on, they could just get Chris Evans back as Steve Rogers. It's like, to me, the more desperate, and it wouldn't even have been desperate because, again, we don't know the story, but a more desperate move would have been like him coming out and saying, I'm Iron Man, somehow I've returned.
Right, which I would also be okay with.
This is a roll of the dice. It's a risk.
Yeah, it's a ballsy, out of the box thinking kind of risk.
And it might suck.
Again, not what I would have done,
It might suck.
but
Who
I
knows?
admire them for taking the swing at the bat. All right, what's next?
Wesley Cunningham says, I don't know, but I'm not feeling the RDJ as Doom thing. Already pivoting from Kang is one thing, but then it's not even a new phase for the new character. Just doesn't feel interesting. Really hoping they have a great story in mind to surprise people with here.
I can't imagine anything sounding more interesting to me. The concept of the world's greatest defender becoming the world's greatest threat. I think that in and of itself to me sells it.
Yeah, because you know what he's capable of. So now we have already established we know what this person, if it is a variant, we don't even know that.
Yeah,
But let's say
listen.
it is. We know what this man's capable of. Now, switch the dial to evil as opposed to good.
And listen, they've done 34 films now. And time after time after time, they've done exactly what you just said. Okay, new villain, new actor. New villain, new actor. New villain, new actor. They've done it 30 plus times. They've done it over and over and over and over again. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's the traditional way of doing it 100%. But now they're doing something totally different. And I hate multiverse. I don't think they ever should have done the multiverse saga. But if you are going to do multiverse, at least use it to do something interesting and something you haven't done yet. And the idea of Tony and a variant of Tony now becoming the biggest threat to the world and the biggest threat to the Avengers, a Thanos level threat. Guys, this is the most unique thing they've done in the MCU in ages. This is incredibly creative. It's completely different from what they've done before. And I think it's got the most upside and the most potential. So we'll see. Again, I could be totally wrong. It could end up being disastrous, but you could be totally wrong. This could end up being the best film they've ever done. And all I'm going to say is this. Magic happens when Kevin Feige and the Russo brothers work together. Magic happens. The 4 times the Russos and Kevin Feige have worked together, the results have been Winter Soldier, that some people think is the greatest comic book movie of all time. Civil War, which some people think is the greatest comic book movie of all time. Infinity War, which some people think is the greatest comic book movie of all time. And Endgame, which not me, but some people think is one of the greatest, if not the greatest comic book movie of all time. That has been the track record so far. So if the team of Kevin Feige and the Russo brothers say, we're going to try this, fuck it. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt because they're 4 for 4. They're not just 4 for 4. They've homered. They didn't just get a couple of singles and 2 doubles. They've hit homers 4 times in a row. So I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. All right, what's next?
Garden Variety Vagabond says RDJ is going to be enjoying this new challenge and that excitement should come through in his performance.
I 100% agree. I think this is something he's really going to be excited about and wants to sink his teeth into. And regardless, even if it turns out to be bad, I think we're going to see him give a great performance regardless, even if the movie ends up being bad. All right, what's next?
Eddie Burton says, I think it was a misstep on DC's part not to bring anything pertaining to Superman to SDCC this year. They would have been overshadowed by Marvel knowing what we know now, but I think bringing the cast in for a panel could have benefited DC. Am I wrong on that?
Ray, do a double check for me. What's the actual, I believe it's June or July, but what's the actual release date for the new Superman movie? Well, I mean, it logistically would have been
July 11th, 2025.
July 11th. Now look up the date for 2025 San Diego Comic-Con. But I think what would have been a mistake, it would have been a mistake logistically because they are shooting Superman right now.
24 through 27.
Okay, so it's afterwards. They're actually shooting. So they literally would have to stop production on the movie to bring everybody down to do it. Look, would I would have liked to have seen it? Yes. I would have liked to have seen it at Comic-Con, sure. But I don't think what they should do is stop production on a movie that you literally have thousands of people working on to fly down to Comic-Con to give a 40-minute presentation in front of 6,000 people. And so while I would have liked to have seen it, yes, but I don't think it was a mistake for them not to do it. The movie's still a year away.
And they want this time too. I believe they want this time. It'll be good for it because when they come out with Superman, it's going to go boom. And everyone's going to be like, oh, I forgot they even exist. There's a Superman boom. movie coming out,
Right,
and
see-
here it is. But see, if you just keep teasing things, then it's kind of like it. I just like the impact of like coming because it's a reboot,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's a reboot. I just like the impact of going away for a little while, getting your shit together, and coming back and showing what you did with the time.
And look at what Marvel did in their panel. They talked about Captain America 4, which is already done, so they're not shooting. They talked about Thunderbolts, which they're done, so they're not shooting. They talked about Fantastic Four, which they hadn't started shooting yet. And then they talked about Avengers Doomsday and Avengers, which they are not currently shooting. So everything that Marvel covered is stuff that they're not currently in production of and shooting at the moment. So I don't think James Gunn could have just, number one, he's the director of the film. They need him there. I don't think he could have just brought his cast in, done it for what. So I'm okay with the fact that they did. And now if they weren't shooting at the moment, or if they had done production and they were already wrapped, 100% I guarantee you James Gunn would have brought Superman. But I think you got to put the movie first. Put the movie first, then worry about promoting it at like something like Comic-Con.
And get your tickets right now because we're gonna get that showdown next year of Marvel versus DC at Hall H again. Like I meant, because I believe Marvel will
For their
probably do
panel,
that.
you mean?
For their
Yeah.
panel, because that was the big thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Marvel
I
and
just
DC had their panels.
I don't know what DC's going to have to bring next year, though. Because the next movie, the only other movie that's got an official release date right now is Supergirl, which comes out in 2026?
Yeah.
Or
Maybe
late
just an
2025?
explanation of the future of the, because
Oh,
by
you're
then
right,
they'll have a
because
better
Superman
idea.
would have come
Yeah,
out.
Superman comes out 2 weeks before Comic-Con. So anyway,
And-
we got a million more questions to get
Yeah.
to. Let's keep going.
Bye says, hey, big fan of the show. Wondering as we only got.
Oh, sorry. I Am Doom is next. Sorry.
I am Doom. I am Doom says, wouldn't RDJ playing both Tony / Victor be the same level of continuity as Josh Brolin playing Thanos / Cable? Each example from separate universes. Plus, if I recall, Doom always wears a mask. Is that right?
Well, doesn't have to.
Most of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it wouldn't be the same situation as Cable and Thanos. It doesn't, because first of all, it's like Gemma Chan playing her character in Captain Marvel and then playing a completely different character in Eternals, because in one she's caked up in makeup and looks completely different.
Yeah, he's big and purple.
Yeah. And Cable again was done in a separate universe. This thing, I believe, Victor Von Doom is meant to be a variant of the one we know as Tony Stark. So I think there's going to be a definite connection there. So I see there's two very, very, very different situations. All right, what's next?
Bye says, hey, big fan of the show. Wondering as we only got 3 films, not including the Avengers films, given the spotlight at SDCC, do you think we'll get more announcements at D23 this year? I'm still holding out for Shang-Chi 2 or our next Thor film. All the best.
Yeah. I mean, what I had heard initially was that they were going to focus on movies and not Disney Plus shows at Comic-Con. And sure enough, they didn't talk about any of their Disney Plus shows. And then at D23, they were going to focus on the Disney Plus shows. What it now seems like is at D23, which they can go fuck themselves. D23 is stupid. But at D23, it sounds like they're going to focus more on the TV shows. And I think they'll probably mention some of the other movies that they have coming at their totally useless idiotic trash bin festival that they have known as D23. Fuck you, Disney. All right, what's next?
All right, Marvel's compelling package says, why are we so certain that RDJ is playing a variant of Tony Stark that becomes Doctor Doom instead of just playing a variant of Victor who looks like the Sacred Timeline's Tony, much like how a variant of Johnny looks like the Sacred Timeline's Steve Rogers?
But that, again, get out of here with that. Johnny was in a completely different studio in a completely different set of films. That when they created that and did that, it was for, they were in 2 totally different studio systems. It is not applicable. It's not something you can compare. Now, I've said many times, it is possible that they're just going to say, this is Victor Von Doom, who is a totally different character and not a variant of the character we know as Tony Stark in the 616. They just happen to look exactly alike, and they're being played by the same. It is possible they're doing that. I'm not saying it's not possible. That is a possibility. I'm saying I severely doubt that, number one, because that's not interesting. It's not interesting. The interesting thing here, again, for me, is the face we know as Earth's greatest defender is now the Earth's greatest threat, a variant of Tony Stark who is the most brilliant man in the world. That's the interesting part. So if you were doing it that Doctor Doom was just a totally autonomous character, completely separate from Tony Stark and not at all a variant of him, then I think it's a mistake to cast Robert Downey Jr. At that point, there's no reason to cast Robert Downey Jr. You cast another actor. There's a lot of great ones out there. But again, I'm not at all saying that that's not a possibility. It absolutely is. I just think they're going to go this way. All right, what's next?
Stony Snark says, in Doomsday, Tony Stark is a chemistry teacher who gets cancer. He discovers a cure, but to produce it, he has to break bad. To hide his ID and promote his image, he calls himself Von Doom. Then shit happens.
Again, like I said a little bit earlier, there are a million different ways that they can come up with that establishes that this character is a variant of Tony Stark, but his identity is Victor Von Doom. It could be that his family, his great grandparents immigrated from Europe, but in that universe they never did, and they never changed their family name, and they were known as the Von Dooms. And he's Victor Von Doom, like still, who he is, still a variant of Tony Stark, but or that Tony Stark broke bad early in his life, figured I'm the smartest guy in the world, I should be ruling this sucker, and started by taking over Latveria, changed his identity to Victor Von Doom. Again, or the way you're describing. There's a million ways that they can get to the point that this being is known as Victor Von Doom. We'll have to see which way they go about it. I think there's a lot of different ways they could do it, though. All right, what's next?
Anonymous says, so if this Doom is from the F4 universe, and if the F4 are from some retro-futuristic alternate Earth, would there even be a Tony Stark in a cave and a Yinsen? I'm hoping he's not just Victor looking like our Tony.
Again, there's a million different ways they can do it. It's literally, especially in the midst of all this multiverse nonsense, there is no limitation on the amount of ideas they could come to bring this to fruition. Just hopefully they pick a good one. All right, we got time for a couple more. What's next?
David says, hello, it seems like M. Night's new movie Trap is getting great first reactions out of its premiere. I saw some people say it's his best film since The Village. I can't believe you get Twisters, Deadpool, and Trap over 3 consecutive weekends. Thanks.
Wait.
I hope it's
Best
better
film
than
since The Village?
I hope it's better than The Village.
Yeah, I was like, wait, did people love The Village?
I thought it was all right.
I didn't
hope,
mind it, but
I mean, I like the happening, so it doesn't matter.
I hope it's better than The Village. I mean, look, I think it looks really good. The stuff they showed us at CinemaCon looked great. I think the trailer's been wonderful. I'm really looking forward to this. We got our tickets for it already. I'm super stoked for it. But I hope it's a lot better than The Village. All right, what's next?
Anonymous says, I'm still very curious as to who will write Doomsday in Secret Wars. MCU and Russo's have been great together, but let's not forget Marcus and McFeely
yep.
wrote all of the Russo's MCU movies as well. If they're writing Doomsday in Secret Wars, then I'm all in.
That is a huge part of this equation that because honestly, going in to the Marvel panel, one of my predictions was that they will announce the new directors and writers for Avengers 5 and 6. And we didn't get the writers. I really do hope it's Marcus and McFeely. I really do hope they're coming back. I haven't heard anything official on it yet, but I really hope it's them. Because if they do, that bodes very well for the future of these movies. All right, what's next?
Zero Requiem, says, hey, John, you keep saying that they have to explain why Doom looks like Tony Stark. Aren't you forgetting that Doom's face is always hidden by a mask? No need to complicate things when you can just never take off the mask and have him use Doom's accent.
In that case, there is no logical reason on God's green earth why you cast Robert Downey Jr. to play the role. There's literally no reason on earth that you cast Robert Downey Jr.
For that
to play
price
the role.
tag?
Yeah.
Yeah, with a price tag that he's going to bring along and you're never going to see his face, there's simply no logical reason why you cast Robert Downey Jr. So you're going to see Victor's face. 100% you will. All right, what's next?
Say My Name says, SDCC reaction. Calling it now. RDJ as Doom announcement is a big decoy. Notice how the color for the logo of Doomsday was a Doom green, and the logo for Secret Wars for Iron Man red and gold. RDJ is also coming back as Iron Man 2, guaranteed.
Well, I guarantee, but I definitely had that thought.
Yeah?
It's absolutely 100% possible.
Yeah.
100% that's possible. Because again, you're dealing with the stupid multiverse. So there are other Tonys out there. And if you're going to do Secret Wars, even like mildly resembling what the comics did with it, he could totally be there. I'm not saying that they will. I'm not saying your prediction is right, but I'm saying there's merit to your prediction. I think it has some possibilities. All right, what's next?
Ryan says RDJ being cast as Doom takes a lot of courage. If it doesn't work, the MCU is finished. If they stick the landing, they are so back. Doomsday as easily become my most anticipated MCU film ever.
I completely disagree with you, Ryan, and here's why. We just had Deadpool. We still have Thunderbolts, Cap 4, Fantastic Four. We got a lot of movies coming out before. MCU is either going to be very, very firmly established or they're going to be done before they ever get to shooting Avengers Endgame or Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars. Long before that. Like, let's not forget that Doomsday is not the next movie up to plate. We've literally got 4 other films coming out before that one. So where they're going to be at the time that comes around, I definitely don't think it's just going to depend on that. In other words, I think Doomsday, if the next bunch of Marvel films are really good, because obviously Deadpool and Wolverine already accomplished that. Hopefully Cap 4, Thunderbolts looks great, and Fantastic Four. Let's say all 4 of those are really good. And that's a big if. But if they are, they could handle a bump in the road with Avengers Doomsday. They can handle one bad film. If the next 4 are quite good. What they can't do is have Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret War be bad. But it's, again, let's see where we're at by the time we get to Doomsday. All right, last question of the day. What's next?
Future Man 19 says, RDJ as Dr. Doom? Seriously? Is this just another gimmick by Disney? Even if the plot and storyline were somehow perfect, RDJ's face has been forever typecast as Iron Man, and I don't believe they can ever be unseen. I have hope, but will remain skeptical.
Here's the thing. Again, I'll say this again. What you're worried about is the point. That's the point. They are relying on people going, I can only see Robert Downey Jr.'s face as Iron Man. That's what they're relying on. I think that is a key part of the strategy here. I think that is an essential part of why they're doing this.
It'll break people's hearts.
Part of it is going to be breaking people's hearts. It is the world's greatest defender becoming the world's greatest threat. And in order for that to work, they're counting on what you just explained. What you just explained as your worry, I guarantee you is what they are counting on and betting on happening. That's what they want to have happen. And if they do it well, and that's a big if because they might not, but if they do it well, it could be fucking special.
Yeah, that's not my issue. My issue is just like bad writing, right? If the story's stupid, bad writing, then you're in big trouble. But not believing an actor can act, I mean, Robert Downey Jr., come on.
But again, the whole dynamic of, but this is the face that we all associate with our hero. This is the face we associate with safety. This is the face we associate of being saved, of being defended, of being avenged. And now that face that we are supposed to take comfort in is the thing that we need to dread the most.
Yeah, the premise
That's
is great.
what they're counting on. They want us to feel that. So
but that's
whether it works or not, we'll see.
I was saying that's based on Tony Stark becoming Dr. Doom. Right?
Yeah, and that's again, you don't know.
There's going to be a connection between the two.
Yeah, if there is.
Maybe or maybe not. Maybe he's
because
I don't know. This is going to be Tony Stark becoming Dr. Doom. I think this is going to be a story about a variant of Tony Stark who has a very, very different life journey to the point that he never becomes the hero that we know, but he right from early it goes on a different path and becomes the greatest threat in the world. Again, we will see. We will see how it all shakes out. Anyway, guys, we didn't get through all of the questions. Our apologies, because you guys sent in a shit ton of questions over the weekend. So don't worry, we'll get all caught up on tomorrow's show. We'll pick up on the rest of the questions tomorrow and add those to the show tomorrow, and we'll get all caught up tomorrow. So, guys, that'll do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show podcast. Thank you so much for being here and making this little show part of your day. Big special thank you to all you guys who sent in the questions. Number one, because you gave us great fun things to talk about. But number two, you supported this channel as you did it, and all of us involved with the show. Thank you guys so very much for your support. I want to thank the people in the room with me, Ray Ora.
Be safe, everyone.
Jonathan Voico.
Later.
Paris Rose.
Thanks. Bye, guys.
My name's John Campea, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye.